Greetings dear friends, it's been a while since we caught up, so here I am this time with a video on phrasal verbs. Now, what are phrasal verbs, you say? Phrasal verbs are ideally 2 to 3 word long expressions that serve as a very casual and more natural sounding replacement for more formalized and complex vocabulary. The effect, the usage of phrasal verbs helps transform your language into sounding more natural, more native-like, more eased out, and more effortless. Let's take some examples right away. For instance, I have to use the sentence, let's spend some time together. I could drop in a phrasal verb in here and have that sentence as, let's hang out. Because hang out is a phrasal verb that suggests to spend time with someone or to spend time with people. Trying another example here, you have a sentence such as, I would like you to investigate the matter. You could drop in a phrasal verb here as well and have that sentence as, I would like you to look into the matter. Because look into is a phrasal verb that goes on to suggest to investigate something. So such are the examples of the usage. In fact, good users of the language make such a frequent use of phrasal verbs that it's practically impossible to come across any English programming such as an English movie or an English television series that does not make a frequent use of these language devices. So hopefully through this video you too today take a shine to phrasal verbs, and they in turn help you transform your language into sounding more natural and more native. With that hope, let's begin. Alright, so before we begin, I'd like to point out over here that since phrasal verbs are also essentially verbs, with the only exception that they have a preposition attached to them, so just like all the other verbs, the phrasal verbs too tend to observe the rule of the tense. Which is to say that like all the other verbs, you can use your phrasal verbs in all the tenses, be it the past, the future, or the present. With that in mind, let's proceed to our first phrasal verb, which is to bump into someone, or you have the American version of the same as run into someone. And the meaning of the phrasal verb is to meet someone by chance or to meet them in an unplanned fashion. Now once again, like we talked about the use of all the phrasal verbs in all the tenses, let's have a look at some popular usages. We start with the first sentence in the simple past, and you have the sentence as, I bumped into Alice on my way home yesterday, which is to say that I met Alice by chance on my way home yesterday. You have bump turning into bumped, which is to suggest the simple past. Let's take another one. This time we have the sentence in the simple present, and the sentence reads, we bump into each other every other day. So you have every other day, an expression that means almost every day. So let's imagine a situation over here. Let's say there are two people who share the same route to either to work or to home, and it's very likely that they get to meet each other by chance or in an unplanned manner, since they are sharing the same route to home or to work, as we talked about. So what do they say to each other? They say we bump into each other every other day, which is to say that we get to see each other by chance every other day. Let's try a sentence now in the near future expressed using the simple present. And you have that sentence as, I hope to run into you, or I hope to bump into you at the movies. Let's say these are two friends who are going to watch the same show of the same movie, only they are going with different people. But they expect, or they rather hope to see each other at the movies, which is to say at the cinema. So they hope to meet each other by chance at the cinema. So what do they say to each other? They say, I hope to run into you, or I hope to bump into you at the movies. Taking a present perfect continuous now, and we have the sentence as, lately we've been running into each other, or we've been bumping into each other a lot. Now let's say once again that these are two people who have been meeting each other by chance a lot in the past. What do they say? They say, lately or recently we've been running into each other, or we've been bumping into each other a lot. Trying another sentence, this time in the present perfect, and we have the sentence as, we have bumped into each other many times. Now, these are two people, once again, who have by chance met each other a lot in the recent past. So they go ahead and say, we have bumped into each other many times. You have the auxiliary verb have over here coupled with the third form of the verb bump, bumped, so have bumped into, indicating the present perfect. And now finally coming to a sentence in the past perfect, and you have that sentence as, before I got home, I had already run into Alice. Let's call it a continuation from sentence number 1. So you have, before I got home, I had already run into Alice, to suggest that before reaching home, I had already by chance met Alice. You have got your auxiliary verb as had, and you have the third form of the verb run, run, ran, run. So had run, indicating your past perfect. You can also have the same sentence as, before I got home, I had already bumped into Alice. Bump, bumped, bumped. You get the third form of the verb as bumped. Couple that up with had, and you have your past perfect as, I had already bumped into Alice or met Alice by chance. So hopefully you're feeling enthused about the usage of phrasal verbs. However, if tenses are limiting your learning, feel free to check out the videos in the channel on simple and perfect tenses. I'm sure you'll feel a whole lot better. For now, let's move ahead and check out phrasal verb number 2. Alright, on to our next phrasal verb, which is get along. And it means to have a good relation with someone and enjoy their company. Allow me to explain a bit further. So if I get along with someone, or I get along well with someone, well is a very commonly used adverb with this expression. So if I get along with someone, it means that we are very similar people. I understand them, they understand me, and whenever we are in each other's company, we end up spending a good time. So in a more casual manner of speaking, if two people get along well, it means that they click. Another way of saying the same thing. Let's get to an example right away. So let's say if I share a very healthy bond with my sister and we really enjoy each other's company, so I'd express that as, I get along well with my sister. On the contrary, if there's somebody that I do not like and I do not like spending time with them, so how do I express that? I go ahead and say that I do not get along with him or her. And such is the meaning of get along. Let's further that understanding with the help of a few sentences. So starting off with a simple sentence in the simple present, we have that as, they get along pretty well. So two people who like spending time together, like each other's company, you have that expressed as, they get along pretty well. Coming to a sentence in the simple past, and you have that as, they got along just fine. Two people met, liked each other, liked spending time together, and you have that as, they got along just fine. Coming back once again to another sentence in the simple present, however, this time an interrogative sentence, and you have that as, do you get along well with your sister? Which is to say that, do you share a good relationship with your sister? Going to a sentence now in the present continuous, something for the music lovers, we have that sentence as, Camilla and Sean are getting along famously. Now, when I say famously, it has nothing to do with fame, as it may seem. Famously is quite simply an adverb which has the meaning of very well. So to rephrase this sentence, you have that as, Camilla and Sean are getting along very well. Cheers to the musical duo. Moving along, we have a sentence this time in the present perfect continuous, and it reads, ever since their sessions with the marriage counselor, the couple have been getting along better than before. This suggests that ever since their sessions with the marriage counselor, the couple's relationship or the relation has been improving. And now finally we go to the sadder side, a negative sentence, which reads, they broke up because they didn't get along with each other. So in this sentence, you have in fact two phrasal verbs. Broke up is the past tense of the phrasal verb break up, which you know means to separate. So you've got this sentence fraught with two phrasal verbs. They broke up because they didn't get along with each other. But hopefully, by the end of this little section, I do hope that you are getting along well with phrasal verbs. With that hope, let's proceed to phrasal verb number 3. Coming to a very handy phrasal verb, especially for everyday usage, we've got drop by, also used as drop in. And it means to visit someone casually and briefly. So let's say if I go to meet someone at their place for a short amount of time in a very casual manner without any specific invitation, I'd say that I dropped by their place. Yes, this expression is ideally followed up by the name of the place that you visit. This place could be anything, could be your friend's place, could be someone's place of work, could be a hardware store, a supermarket, and so on. You get the idea. Let's take an example right away. So let's say if I'm driving to some place and I know that on the way there's my friend's place or his house. So I intend to make a stop, which I do. So I make a stop for, let's say, about 15 to 20 minutes at my friend's place. We catch a cup of tea together and chat away the time. So I would express that as, on my way, I stopped by my friend's place. Let's take a few examples to clarify that further. Starting off with a very simple sentence in the simple present, and this one's very often used as a casual invitation for anyone that you want to invite. You have that sentence as, why don't you drop by sometime? So let's say there's someone that you want to invite to your place to spend some time together. You would go ahead and say, why don't you drop by sometime? Coming to the next sentence, this one's in simple past, and this reads, your brother dropped by my office today, which is to say that your brother came over to my office today. Came over, derived from come over, is another phrasal verb that means to visit a place for a short amount of time. Move on to another sentence. This one's in the simple future, and the sentence reads, I'll quickly drop by the supermarket and get us some milk. So let's say you need milk at home and you're fresh out of it and you need to go to the supermarket to get it. So what do you say? I'll quickly drop by the supermarket and get us some milk. You know, you're not going to spend a lot of time there. You're in, you get the milk, you're out. So that's dropping by the supermarket. We come to the next one. This one's in future continuous, and the sentence reads, I'll be dropping by tomorrow afternoon. You're letting someone know that you'd be visiting their place for a short amount of time in a casual manner. So you say that as, I'll be dropping by tomorrow afternoon. Coming to our sentence in the present perfect. This one reads, it has been ages since you dropped by. So you're meeting someone who hasn't come over, or perhaps you're talking over the phone and you're telling them that it's been such a long time that you came over to my place. So what do you say? It has been ages since you dropped by. We finally come to a sentence in the past continuous, and this one reads, I was thinking of dropping by your place for a cup of tea. So you're showing your intention that you were planning to visit someone for a short amount of time to share a cup of tea together. You go ahead and phrase that as, I was thinking of dropping by your place for a cup of tea. So I'm very glad that you dropped by this channel. I hope you're having fun. Let's proceed to phrasal verb number 4. Phrasal verb number 4 is kick in, and it has nothing to do with swinging your leg. On the contrary, it means to start showing effect or start working. Let's get to some sentences. The first one this time is in present continuous, and it reads, I think the medicine's kicking in, or even I think the pill's kicking in. So let's say you had a severe case of toothache and you've taken some medication to find relief, and you're just beginning to find that relief, you're feeling better. So how do you express that? You go ahead and say that I think the medicine's kicking in, which is to say that I think the medicine's starting to work or starting to show effect. On to the next sentence. This one's in present simple, and it's somebody talking about their allergies. They go ahead and say, whenever I have peanuts, my allergies kick in, which is another way of saying that whenever I consume peanuts, I start feeling discomfort because my allergies take effect or start showing themselves. So that's the second one. On to sentence number 3, which is in the future tense, and it reads, if power goes out, the generator will kick in. Another way of saying that if power fails, the generator will start working. So you've got 2 phrasal verbs over here. Apart from kick in, you also have go out, which is a phrasal verb very frequently used along with power failure. So if you experience a power failure, you can easily go ahead and say that the power's gone out, or simpler yet, the power's out. So that's another sentence. If power goes out, the generator will start working, kick in. On to our second last sentence. This one's again in simple present, talking about the natural process of growing up, and you have that as puberty kicks in around teenage, which is another way of saying puberty starts showing its effect around teenage. And coming to our final sentence, this one's again in present continuous, and it goes on as the new rule is going to kick in tomorrow, or the new rule is going to come into effect tomorrow. So that's kick in. And if you've come thus far in the video, I guess your interest is kicking in. Let's try and keep it that way. We move on to phrasal verb number 5. Coming to a phrasal verb now springing from family relations, and this one is take after someone, which means to resemble an older family member or a relative in appearance and in qualities, or either of the two. So let's say if I look a lot like my father, I would phrase that as I take after my father. Or someone looks a lot like their mother, they would go ahead and say I take after my mother. Speaking of qualities, let's imagine I have an elder brother who's a lot into music, plays a lot, and even plays in a band, and I follow in his footsteps and join a band as well and start playing. So I could go ahead and phrase that as I take after my brother. That's the usage. And since this phrasal verb is ideally used to represent facts, as in who resembles whom, so this is more often, or rather mostly, heard being used in the simple present. To that effect, let's go to the first sentence. We have the first example as, it was easy to recognize you because you totally take after your mother. Now let's say I'm meeting someone for the first time, although I am acquainted with her mother and I know how she looks like. So I find the daughter very similar in looks with her mother, and it makes it very easy for me to recognize her. So how do I express that? I go ahead and say, it was easy to recognize you because you totally take after your mother. Moving on to the next sentence, we have another one in the simple present, and this one reads, Jeremy's got a great sense of humor. He takes after his father. So apparently Jeremy's father was a funny man, and so is he. So that can be expressed as he takes after his father. We go to another sentence over here. This is this time in the past simple, and we have that as Emma took after her mother and became a writer. So apparently Emma's mother had great writing skills and she turned the same into a profession. Her daughter ended up doing the same, and that is represented as Emma took after her mother and became a writer. Speaking of qualities here. Moving on to another example, this time a participle with the ing with the verb. You have that as taking after his uncle, John grew up to be tall. Speaking of a physical trait over here, so apparently John has an uncle who is tall, and the same family trait is transferred to John as well, who also grew up to be tall. That is expressed as taking after his uncle, John grew up to be tall. Now coming to another sentence, this time talking about that unfortunate odd duck who doesn't resemble anyone in the family, luckily or unluckily, depends really. So the sentence goes, Josephine takes after no one in the family, which is to say that Josephine resembles no one in her family. Coming to the final sentence here, once again in the simple present, however an interrogative sentence. This one reads, whom do you take after in the family, which is to say that whom do you resemble in your family. So that's all about phrasal verb number 5, take after. Let's go ahead and move to phrasal verb number 6. Phrasal verb number 6 is flick through, also used as flip through. And it means to look through quickly a book, a magazine, or something like that. So one of those times, when you have a book in your hand or a magazine and you just keep turning pages without really getting into the matter or reading it properly. You see a picture here, you see a picture there, you get done and you move on to the next page. You're just trying to while away the time and amuse yourself. So that sort of reading is called just flicking through the pages. So let's get into some sentences right away. We have the first one in the simple present, which reads, she flicks through fashion magazines while at the salon. So let's say you're at the salon, you've got some sort of a treatment or whatever it is that you've got done to your hair, and you have to let your hair be for some time. You cannot do much. So what do? You while away your time by grabbing a fashion magazine and start flicking through. On to another sentence. We have the next one in the simple past this time. And this is, I flicked through some journals while waiting at the dentist's. So while a world of pain awaits you and you dread the chair, you try to distract yourself by grabbing whatever is available, even if it's a medical journal. What the heck, I've got to distract myself. I've got a lot of coming ahead for me. So I go ahead, grab a journal and start flicking through. On to another one. This one is in the past continuous and it reads, we were sitting in the reception area flipping through the college brochure. Nothing much to do, so grab the college brochure. Let's find out what the facilities are, what it's all about, the history, and so on, flipping through the college brochure. And finally, a sentence in the simple past, which is, I wasn't really hungry, so I just flipped through the menu. So you went out to accompany your friend to eat. They insisted that you too have something, but you weren't really hungry. But for their sake, you gave the menu a slight look. So what did you do? You grabbed hold of the menu, just turned a few pages, flicked through the menu, couldn't find anything of interest. So how do you phrase that? You say that as, I wasn't really hungry, so I just flipped through the menu. So this is phrasal verb number 6, flip through. Let's go ahead and flip through onto the next phrasal verb. Phrasal verb number 7 is show someone around, and it means to take someone to places that they haven't visited before so that they can know and see them. So getting to an example right away, let's say a friend of yours comes over to visit you from another city. So obviously they are new to your city and you would like to, as a gesture, take them to popular places of interest in your city. And let's also say that the name of your friend is Jim. So how do you phrase that? You go ahead and say that, I would like to show Jim around the city. So that's the usage. Now, the usage pattern, let's get to that as well. So let's look over here. Between or midway the expression show around, you add the name of the person that you would like to show around. So in our case we had Jim, so we had show Jim around. And after the word around, it's optional. It's up to you really whether or not to add the name of the place that you're going to take them to. Let's understand that further with the help of a few sentences. Starting with a sentence in the simple present, we have that as, welcome to our new home. Let me show you around. So let's say you have some friends over for a housewarming occasion and you would like them to take a tour of the place. So you tell them, let me show you around. Coming to the next sentence, we have this one in the future. I would love to show you around the next time you're in the city. Very similar to the Jim situation. On to the next one. We have a sentence in the simple past, and this one reads, it was so nice of Robert to show us around his village. Another sentence, this one in the simple past, and it reads, the guide showed everyone around the museum. Well, you know, makes it more interesting. And the final sentence for this phrasal verb in the simple present is, I love showing friends around the town. Well, you know, who doesn't? So this is showing around. Phrasal verb number 7. We move on to phrasal verb number 8. On to phrasal verb number 8, which is to put something out, and it means to extinguish something that is burning, or very simply put, to stop the fire or stop the flame. A little note on the usage over here, which is that whatever you're stopping from burning, which is already on fire, let's say the word fire itself. So you can either insert it midway the expression between the two words put and out and have yourself put the fire out, or you can even take it out of the expression and have it follow the word out, and then you've got yourself put out the fire. Either way is fine. With that, let's go to the examples. The first sentence is in the simple present. Let's say somebody's smoking, and while somebody else is getting bothered by the smoke, so they go ahead and put up a request by saying, could you please put out the cigarette? Or quite simply, could you please stop smoking? Coming to another sentence here, this one is in the past. The firemen put out the fire just in time. So the firemen extinguished the fire just in time and saved valuable lives. Coming to another one, this is in the past again. Surprisingly, the gusty wind or the strong wind didn't put out the candle or didn't stop it from burning. So didn't put out the candle, or you can even have didn't put the candle out. Moving ahead, we have the sentence in the present perfect, and this one reads, the fire has been put out by automatic sprinklers. You know, sprinklers, those devices on the ceiling, shower-like thingies, you know, when they kick in whenever you have any smoke or fire in the room, and voila, suddenly you have your bedroom turning into your shower. So let's hope that doesn't happen to anyone. Moving ahead to the last one, we come to the fiery side of alcohol, and this one reads that, amusingly, they tried putting out the fire with alcohol, and voila, suddenly everyone was sober. So there you have it. This is phrasal verb number 8, put something out or put out something, ideally something that's burning. With this, we move on to phrasal verb number 9. Phrasal verb number 9 comes from the road. This one is pull over, which means to move a vehicle to the side of the road and stop. So very handy and useful phrasal verb for everyday driving scenarios. Let's go to some sentences right away. The first one is in the simple past, and it reads, the view was stunning, so we pulled over and got an eyeful, which is to say that the view was stunning, so we moved the car onto the side, stopped, and got a good view. So to get an eyeful means to get a good view. On to the next one. This sentence is in the simple present, and you've got, if you feel drowsy, it's a good idea to pull over. Absolutely, you don't want to be doing this, right? Oh. Let's avoid that unnecessary rush. Coming to the one sentence in the simple past, this one reads, the cop signaled the overspeeding driver to pull over. Let's say there was an overspeeding driver who was asked to make a stop at a checkpost, so that it's phrased as the cop signaled the overspeeding driver to pull over. A second last sentence, this is in the present continuous, and it reads, I don't feel so good, I'm pulling over. Smart choice. And a last sentence in the future, this one is, I'll pull over for some fuel. Let's say the fuel station obviously is onto the side of the road, so what do? You move the car onto the side, make it stop there, go get some fuel, so you just pulled over for some fuel. So this is phrasal verb number 9. On to the end of the tail, we come to phrasal verb number 10. So phrasal verb number 10 very aptly is kick back, because it means to stop doing things and relax. Let's check out a few sentences. So the first one is in the near future, expressed using going to, and you have that as, I'm going to make me a cup of tea and kick back, which is to say that I'm going to relax with a cup of tea. Second one, this time another one in the present, however an interrogative sentence, and you have that as, what do you usually do to kick back? Another way of saying that, how do you relax? An answer to that sentence could be the very next one that reads, kicking back with a nice movie is my perfect timeout. Timeout meaning break. So you have that rephrased as, relaxing with a nice movie is my perfect break. Coming to the second last sentence, this one in the past this time, and it reads, Mark kicked back in his library with a nice book. Mark loves to read, so he relaxed with a book. And a quick and short exclamatory sentence in the end, which reads, just kick back and relax. Now, I do realize that kick back in itself means to relax. However, we often use the word relax again after the expression to just provide a hint of the emphasis. So that's phrasal verb number 9, or rather 10, I'm sorry, to kick back. Alright, so with that, I guess it's time that I too kick back and relax. It's been a rather long video, but before doing so, I'd like to extend a hearty thanks to all the current subscribers of the channel. Thank you so much for believing in the channel and for sticking by it. You are the strength. And for the first time viewers, if you've liked the presentation, I'd like you to please go ahead, like, share and subscribe and infuse the channel with energy for the future. With that hope, thank you so much for your time. Until then, take care. I'll see you soon.